Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Jeffrey Dobin with Duality Technologies, and today I have the pleasure of talking with Tom Marlow, Head of Data and Analytics at Farmers Insurance. Welcome, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jeff. Good morning. Great to be here. Great to be talking with you today.
So let's talk about a hot topic today and tie it into this general conversation where we're talking about personalization and giving agents the tools they need to empower them to be better at providing service. How do you think ChatGPT is going to be used across the insurance industry? And also, how do you think it's going to impact the different people we just talked about on different sides of the customer experience journey?
Yeah, it's a fun question today to kind of ideate through and noodle on how ChatGPT is gonna change everything. Certainly, there are opportunities within insurance and IT in general. So I think as we press on looking at the opportunities around ChatGPT, there's some industries that it's probably very easy. So if you're selling televisions, ChatGPT could easily explain the features and functions, maybe do some comparisons, right? And probably not a big regulatory concern like on the insurance or financial services side. We do have to be very careful about, we have customer information. We want to make sure that isn't inappropriately shared. And we want to make sure that you're getting to the right answers in a very complex kind of product set. So I would say, first and foremost, building an understanding of the capability and building trust and ultimately seeing what our regulators come back with in the insurance space to say, you can use it here, but we're not quite ready to use it there. So I would say near term application development. So the concept of pair programming could or is becoming, well, it's actually just one person, but it's still paired because they're paired with ChatGPT. I think the knowledge-based space is probably the sweet spot right now. So for insurance, we talked about the number of different brands and products that we have. It's a complex landscape. And then you add on top of that the different regulatory concerns of each of the states that we do business in. Our customer service reps really have a daunting time understanding the products that we have and those specifics for a state when they're on the phone with our customers. And I think ChatGPT can uniquely and quickly explain some of these complex topics very efficiently and even direct those customer service reps maybe to the document that supports what it's coming back with. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think if we shift our lens to the future, certainly recommendations for insurance based on, the unique inputs of a customer, we could get there. I think the maybe summarizing a claim. So claims can often get pretty complicated with when you have multiple cars and aspects of a claim. So maybe summarizing a claim, identification of fraud. I would say population trends and weather insights are another area for insurance. Weather is, increasingly challenging as we're seeing different weather patterns coming through. So maybe there's an opportunity there. And population trends, as people move either into a city or out of a city and how that impacts risk and kind of forecasting that in the future. These are all kinds of, I think, opportunity areas.
Yeah, you hit on some really interesting things. And something that I'm picking up on here is it sounds like there's the ability to use ChatGPT to empower customers as well as agents to do certain things on their own, but then it can also be used as a tool to supplement an agent in terms of how they're servicing a specific customer. In the future, I like the way that you're thinking about this, like as you're dealing with the complexity of claims with various vehicles involved or trends, insights, dealing with weather. I think that gets really fascinating because now you've got tons of global data, right? And it might be something that, I don't know, a layperson or in any given situation can't really use. But if you've got ChatGPT making sense of something, that could be really impactful. So just to, I guess, verify or validate some things I'm picking up on here too. So it sounds like you're seeing an immediate opportunity to reduce workload for customers. And I'm saying workload because sometimes people do things and become self-sufficient on your website or on an app, but can make it easier for the customer and their customer experience. And also there could be things that could reduce workload for the agents. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly right. And I would say not only does it reduce workload for the customers, but I expect ChatGPT is going to drive an even greater set of expectations that customers have about what we offer digitally, whether it's through an app or online. And actually over the weekend, my wife and I were we're updating our will and trust. And as we're going through the documentation, obviously it was the weekend, we can't call our attorney to ask them specific questions. One that came up, a basic one, was the difference between, I'd say, pros, cons, and differences between a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust. And, my wife and I are sitting there going through the paperwork like, I wonder what the differences that are there. Which one is best for us? What are the pros and cons? I was like, well, I'll ask ChatGPT. And I plugged it in and as you know, it immediately comes back with a very succinct, here's what both of them are. Here's the pros and cons between them, some considerations as you're making your choices. And it was right on time. And thinking about embedding that into our farmer's website or app, it just kind of makes sense for a lot of those kinds of questions.
Sounds like you were doing some serious adulting this weekend. So well done.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
made me feel old. My oldest daughter just came back from her freshman year down in South Carolina in college, and I'm just feeling old, more old every day. Jeff, it's catching up.
Let's so ChatGPT offers all sorts of opportunities for us, and I totally agree. How do you incorporate it, tie it in, and make it part of the process and embed it? You brought up weather patterns before and some other ideas for the future. So let's talk a little bit more about data for a second. Now, I know that lots of data is available to capture, and sometimes the more data you have, the better off you are, then you can use it however you want. But are there ever any data sources or data sets, either internally between subsidiaries under the umbrella or externally, that you wish you had access to or your teams wish they had access to that they don't, that could drastically help improve your advanced analytics and ultimately, maybe increase conversion rates or the customer experience if these teams had access to these data sets or these insights and analytics?
Yeah, I love that question. And it's one that, obviously my team is thinking about every day, and our business partners. A couple of them we have touched on already. Weather, as you mentioned, is one of them. Weather is probably the biggest opportunity right now for insurance, is better understanding what's coming, right? And preparing or managing the risk around storms and fires, et cetera. And not just how we rate that risk, but also how, in the insurance industry, we also have a lot of input on, building codes and things like that. So as the weather seems to be changing and evolving, having that information at our fingertips is huge, both proactively, like what might be coming, and then also, retroactively, what can we adjust to make sure that we better weather those storms, pun intended. I'd say another big area is meeting our customers where they're at. And so today we can kind of glean some life events, or, we were talking about kind of some life stages, maybe some shopping insights to, when you're buying a new car or new home, et cetera. This space of preferences. So understanding what are all of how would you like to be engaged, time of day, what channel, whether on, a phone call or a mobile app, et cetera, are all important to not bother you, right? Get you what you need in a timely fashion in the way that you want it, and then move on, right? We don't want to be a nuisance, but we want to make sure that you're covering and getting what you need. And then, of course, in insurance, you have to talk about risk. So customer behavior. It's always this balance of like a creepy factor of understanding, Jeff's risk with what is the pricing associated. And so understanding the true risk of a customer and tailoring products, it really serves both the insurer and the insured, right? So that you're covered appropriately, and we're making sure that, we're pricing it appropriately. So things like, telematics, a lot of vehicle manufacturers are building this into their cars to understand, your driving behaviors, maybe, the risk of the hobbies that you take part in. So I fly airplanes and race cars. That's probably more risky than, somebody who's a golfer. And so understanding, that, hey, you're a golfer, and so that your insurance should probably be cheaper. I fly planes and race cars, mine should probably be more expensive. And otherwise you end up with kind of this peanut butter approach of everybody pays the same, and we assume they're all the same risk. And as we see regulators today saying, hey, you can no longer use credit risk anymore, or credit as an example, to assess insurance risk. That may be a good argument. Like, what does your credit have to do with your, the risk that you have? But when we're starting to pull away some of the factors that have been used for so many years with insurance, we need to look at, well, what are the other factors that we should be bringing in that will actually get us a better picture of our customers' risk?
Awesome. Well, Tom, thank you very much for joining us today. To those listening, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. This conversation's been great. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jeff.